Hey, just thought I'd jump on and do a little live. I haven't done it in a couple of weeks. Always good to jump on and do kind of a little update on what's going on, a little bit of a conversation, which I think is always a good thing. What's happening in the world of Google? What's happening in the world of AI? Interestingly, um, a lot of these platforms are bringing in AI. So, Google now you can start creating images, which is fantastic with Google. Um, I think a lot of advertisers struggle with creatives, images, videos, and it's never been easier now to create the images and videos that you need to do. And my kind of my whole um, feeling towards AI, and I kind of want to focus a little bit on AI today. Obviously, we touched on the way you can create images and videos, and there's a couple of things that I want to talk about. And I was literally um, at the gym this morning talking to someone in regards to this particular subject. There's some different things I want to cover. So AI is here. We need to adapt our business models to AI. It's not going anywhere. Um, and speaking to someone this morning, it was asking me some questions in regards to AI, which I thought I'd share some insights into what I think about the whole thing. AI is here. It's not going anywhere. Will it take jobs? Absolutely, it will do. And it's started to take jobs right now. So if you've got a call center and you're paying money to a call center, one of the easiest things that you can do is just create a voice AI. It's relatively easy to do, to implement that strategy. And everything that we do is regarding saving money and time. And the most valuable asset that we have in business, in life, is time, because you'll never get it back. Money, you can make a bit of money, you can lose a bit of money, but you can always make more money. That's the thing. There's always opportunities out there to make more money. But with time, you'll never get it back. It's simple. I don't care who you are. You'll never get the time back. And that's one of the best, it's the most valuable resource we have. So use it wisely. Look at ways that you can streamline your business. And obviously implementing strategies through AI can do that. An advertiser myself, the workload that I can produce now, and I've been doing this for a long, long time, I can produce the output of two, three, four people very, very easily for my shift that I do in a day by using implementing AI. Now, AI, and again, there's different concepts that we have to understand when we talk about AI. AI is also automations that we can add into our businesses. So not necessarily, you talking to an AI robot or an AI voice or some sort of AI that potentially you might think in your head, this is what we're doing. We can do automations. So, like for me, as an advertiser, a lot of what I do is automated in the background. So I can get a notification when something happens. I can get a notification either through an email or to my phone, or to both ways I can get notifications. And that's an automation that you can quite easily add into your process. So let's talk about um, let's talk about individuals. How can you implement strategies into your business if you're, say, a plumber, electrician, um, renovator, or some sort of business? How can you streamline your business to use AI to implement those strategies into you? And I'll bring this back to Google shortly, but all of this is now taking part in what we're doing. So even though my channel is purely around Google, does AI take a part? Absolutely. Do I implement these strategies into businesses? Absolutely. Why do I do that? Because it saves them money, which we've just spoken about, and time. So everything we're doing is about creating more money, being more efficient, and we can do that through AI and automation. So you're a plumber, electrician, you're running a business. Now, a lot of you will be looking at this video thinking, I get my business through referrals, but referrals aren't scalable. Referrals are fantastic. That means you've done a fantastic job and you're getting business through that. But with referrals, it's not something that you can benchmark and say, right, I'm going to get another 5, 10 referrals next week or next month, because it's not something that you have control of. So with what we're doing, we need to make sure we've got control of our outcome. And the way we do that is by adding in strategies. So what type of strategies can we add in? So we can obviously rank for SEO, we can get more reviews, we can actually send out communications to past clients to give us more reviews, present clients doing a fantastic job, getting more reviews. What does that do? It sends a signal to Google to say we're doing a good job and that we can rank higher through SEO. And obviously with reviews, it sends a signal to Google that we're getting relevant reviews. And when somebody sends you a review, little tip, always reply to that review. What else can we do? So we're getting organic traffic. We could be running Google Ads. Again, something that I do a lot. We run Google Ads. We then automate that process through a lead coming through. Out of hours, we can then set up an automation to say that we're not in the office, we're going to communicate to them. Or again, the next stage to business is potentially adding in voice AI, which is you can talk to a chat widget. Now, again, a lot of pushback I get from businesses is we don't want a robot talking to our clients. Well, you've got to think that right now it's pretty good. It's only going to get better. As bad as it is right now, and it's pretty good, what I'm trying to say is that the evolution of AI each and every week is just getting better and better and better. And it's becoming more human-like. And I don't think it will be too long before you can actually talk to an AI chatbot where you can actually have a conversation with it and it will sound very, very human-like. Now they're around 85% there. But again, we have to understand that if you're not picking up your phone, then by adding in chatbots, then that kind of covers that aspect of your business. And again, you can create chat widgets where you can communicate, where you type into, or you can have a voice call. And again, the whole idea of this is speed to lead. So if somebody comes into your business, you're communicating with them. So if you can't pick up the phone because you're driving, or you're working, or you're busy, or it's out of hours, or it's the weekend that potentially you don't want to be picking up the phone for your business, then you can have these AI automations running in which they're picking up your leads, they're communicating to you and to the client that they potentially have made the phone call. Or the other side of this is which we find works very, very well is the implementation of a calendar in which the AI will actually look at your calendar, give that information to a potential client, and then book you in. That communication will then be automated. Again, this automation, it will send an automation to the yourself as the business owner and also to that potential client who's booked you in for whatever it is. If you wanted to book in plumbing, or if you just wanted to have a chat, again, that can be automated through the calendar, but then you get the communication and they get the communication as well. But again, you would miss that lead if you were busy, if you were out of range, out of signal, or just not available. And again, it's that speed to lead that we need to be so positive with and be proactive with. AI is here, it's only going to get better, and we need to be looking to implement the strategies to, like I said, to streamline our businesses. So how does this fit into Google? Well, if you're paying for ads for Google or Meta, and you're getting business to your website or to your landing page, and again, if you're a plumber or electrician and you necessarily can't answer the calls that are coming through, or you're missing calls, or you're not communicating back to that prospect in sort of 5, 10, 15 minutes, then the chances are that prospect's not going to hang around for you. That prospect is going to look somewhere else. And that's why it's so important to add in some implementations into your business to make sure that you're covering aspects in which you can't necessarily cover. And it's relatively cost effective to implement this strategy into your business. But what's going to happen now is that we're going to see a massive influx. AI is right at the curve, it's right at the bottom, and it's just about to explode. So we're right at the beginning, the cusp of a evolution, which we need to be on top of. And the thing is, if you're not on top of it, then you'll lose the business. And if someone's looking for a plumber or electrician, it will just go to another prospect or another competitor who potentially you're going to miss that bit of business. So we need to make sure that we're closing in the loops based on AI. And again, it's one of the things that we need to be looking at for our businesses. We just need to wake up. It's changing on a weekly basis. I've never seen so much change so quick, so sudden in my years and years of business. But we need to be on top of it. We need to make sure that we're implementing strategies to stay on top of it. And one of those is by adding AI into our businesses. And again, it's relatively simple to do, but it can transform your business. Having a voice AI can literally, if you miss a bit of business, by adding in a relatively cost-effective strategy into your business, then if you pick up a few bits of some leads, get those answered quickly, potentially you're going to see a big uptake in your business just by doing what I've just mentioned. So let's move on to Google. What's happening in the world of Google? Well, not a lot of change. Probably the last couple of months. I think we've steadied the ship with Google Ads. It's more of the same. Still, the structure that I'm seeing that's working well is by running broad with exact. So run one or two broad, add in exact, make sure you're optimizing on a weekly basis. I will be doing some videos on how we can use AI to implement into strategies within Google Ads, but that's going to be in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Probably the biggest thing that I'm seeing is, again, if you've got ads and you're running them, you want me to audit them, just let me know. For the audits I do on a weekly basis, probably the biggest mistakes I'm seeing is just not enough understanding around still the simplification of setting up the ads correctly. And if you can set up the ads correctly, then you're going to save yourself a lot of time and heartache further on down. And when I say setting up the ads, what I'm talking about specifically is just adding in data points. One of the biggest things I see is not adding enough data points. And what is data points? Data point is a collection of data that we have to add in manually. So when you run a Google ad, Google will default you as an example to an area. So if you're targeting, say, the United States or United Kingdom, Google will target the whole country, which is absolutely fine. But what we need to do as advertisers, we need to segment those areas into postal codes if we're targeting, say, 20 miles around our location. And then if we're also looking to target, say, a country, we can break that down into states. And then what that does, that goes into an observation, and that observation then looks at clicks, impressions, different metrics within Google. And then from there, we can then later on, once we collect data, we can bid more aggressively to certain areas. But we have to manually go in and do this work. So we have to go in, and still the person, not AI, the person has to go in and make those changes. But it's just little things like this. We can do that with the audiences. So potentially if we're seeing certain audiences, we can then bid more aggressively to certain audiences. I just see a lot of people have skipped. They've gone from coming into Google Ads and then they've missed out on the fundamentals, and they've just looked, right, how can we jump into ChatGPT as your AI kind of product? ChatGPT is not what I'm talking about when I say AI. Yeah, it is part and parcel of it, but there's a lot more strategic ways that we could potentially use different AI softwares or potentially use to write better headlines and descriptions. But the fundamentals are still going to be the fundamentals with Google, and it's going to be setting up the ads correctly. We still need to set up the tracking. The tracking is a massive issue, and it seems to be getting worse, not better. With all the education that we have around tracking, I still see a massive, massive issue with tracking, people just not looking at the tracking. Let me say this. Once you set up a tracking, it's not something that you can just leave. You still need to go back in, and you need to add this into your optimizations. This is a tip. Check your tracking on a weekly basis at a minimum, because it will break. And it doesn't matter if you're doing it through Google Tag Manager, you still need to check your tracking. Why? Because these things break. If you don't, what will happen is, think of your tracking like a guiding system. So if you don't have the tracking working, then Google doesn't know what to aim for. And I know 2 or 3 years ago, there was this whole thing, you don't need to add tracking. You can just let Google just do the basics right. Stop trying to jump the gun. And again, I see too many advertisers. I'm lucky because I can work. I've worked previously with other agencies, and I worked with one particular agency who just had a number of clients, had some very, very advanced strategies. I don't think they actually knew what they were doing. And on top of that, they did no optimization. It was scary. I used to see these reports going out on a weekly basis. and this was a long time ago. This was a couple of years ago, and it was no optimization was happening with these accounts, and yet the accounts just faltered, and these reports were coming out saying how good the accounts were doing, and it was actually contrary to belief. So we still need to do the basics, which is the optimizations, check the tracking, and everything else that we need to do, adding in your headlines, descriptions, making sure you're updating those. And remember, with Google, what's working, leave it. What isn't, just update it. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, let me know. If you've got a Google Ad account you want me to look at, then drop me a message, and I'm always happy to audit your Google Ad account.